like to welcome back to the show Dr. O, and today we're talking about autism. April is Autism Awareness Month, and you have a background in integrative medicine, and that actually lends itself pretty well to autism, especially how they diagnose and classify autistic people.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me again, Mark. And it's a pleasure being part of the community and to bring awareness to autism in the month of April specifically, but then all year round. We need to be aware because there could be one kid in the playground and playing and have signs and symptoms and parents are not aware. In the past, we were very specific diagnosing autism. Now, autism spectrum disorders, and our bucket is getting much bigger, and so much more other neuropsychiatric disorders or developmental delays are put in the autism bucket. And also the name we used to call Asperger syndrome is kind of phased out and is also put in the autism spectrum disorders bucket. So it's very important because we don't want to label anyone, but in the meantime be aware and look at the signs and symptoms of neuropsychiatric disorders and the neurodevelopmental delays in children.
And then let's talk about the word spectrum is thrown around quite a bit. What exactly does that mean? So basically, you're in that bucket, correct, if you are in the spectrum, but as far as really isolating the child's particular needs, that's not really effective, right? You really gotta hone in on the child themselves.
Yes. I mean, to date, unfortunately, we're all puzzled with autism and autistic spectrum disorders, and there's not really a protocol, but there's a child. It's very important to really look at entirely the whole child and look at how do they differentiate from their neurotypical peers. So if the neurotypical peer did not really present with some of the stereotypical behaviors, then all of a sudden these kids are totally just being differentiated, but parents are like, oh my gosh, my child is doing that. So then now awareness is there. However, what we are falling short is putting now everything in the same bucket and not really addressing the kids with maybe they've got PANDAS, which is pediatric acute and strep-related disorders, or PANS, pediatric acute neuropsychiatric disorders. We need to also weed out these children from the spectrum, so then we are just be more targeted in our approach.
And I always talk about this. You have a background in traditional medicine, being an MD, but also integrative medicine. How does integrative medicine lend its hand when it comes to dealing with autism? It's a different approach.
So now I think is just doing more tests, understanding the biochemical differences in children, we're able to find ways to decrease the inflammation. Now the most recent study from Canada, and just published March 24, 2021, they're looking at it's called MIA, which is maternal inflammatory activation. If the mom had more inflammation and then stress-related inflammation or any other neuroinflammation, they're looking at the certain markers, one of them IL-17A. Those children has much higher IL-17A if the mom have neuroinflammation or MIA, which is maternal inflammatory activation. So that's a little speculation for children because the current studies are on animal studies and they just published in March. So we are looking at inflammation. That's what we look at in functional integrative medicine.
Yeah, you know, again, it is a unique approach, and then you're also looking at the environment as well as some things that are causing this. Dr. O, thank you for all your time and your information. We appreciate it. We always learn something when you're on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Another ceiling.